Okay, so I'm Brett Dietz. I'm the head coach at DePauw University. I've been at DePauw for 15 seasons. Okay, I started off as a part-time wide receivers coach. I worked my way up full-time. Then I became the offensive coordinator, and then I became the head coach in January of 2020. Okay, so I've been the head coach really for the last 5 seasons here. But it's about my background. I'm from Northern Kentucky originally, so right across the river from Cincinnati. Go Bengals, go Reds. Okay, those are my teams. Yeah. I went to a private Catholic elementary school. Growing up, I went to a Catholic high school as well. And I was raised in the church. I was raised going to Catholic church and went to church every Sunday. We didn't have cool things like this, like Young Life, 1,000 years ago when I was growing up, like you guys have. I would have loved to be out here shooting basketball with you group and hear a message. We just didn't have that where I grew up. So I did that. I played football, basketball, and baseball in high school. I love sports. And fortunate to still be in sports now, but I went to high school, then I went off and went to college. I had a couple of different options to go to college. I ended up at Hanover College in Southern Indiana. Is where I went. I was a quarterback, so we were pretty good there at Hanover. Our team, my senior year, led the country in passing. So I got a couple of different looks. I didn't get looks in the NFL, but I ended up going and playing in Finland. Okay, you guys know where Finland is? Right next to Sweden, right next to Denmark, okay, up in Scandinavia. So yes, they do play American football in Finland, but it's not the greatest football in the world, as you can imagine. But I went over there and I played professionally overseas in 2004. That to you guys is 1,000 years ago. But played professionally over there. I came back into the States and I got involved with arena football. Does anybody know what arena football is? Okay, most of you guys know. Think of, for those of you who don't know, you guys know hockey, right? You know a hockey rink. Imagine taking a hockey rink and putting AstroTurf down, like the old school turf, over top the ice, over top the boards, and that's where we play football. So yes, we did have the boards. Yes, you could bounce off the wall and stuff like that. So it was really fun, really fast-paced. At the time, in the Arena Football League, you could make a living doing that. The top quarterback in the league was making $167,000 a year. And so, sign me up for that for 5 months of work. Anybody else want to sign up for that? So, in my mind, I was like, I don't even care about the NFL. I found a game that really suited me and the quarterback style. And so, once I started Arena Football in 2005, I'm like, man, I'm trying to get to this top league. I'm trying to be a starter. That's what it was all about, right? So I was all in on this football stuff. And then God was able to work in mysterious ways. So I'm going to tell you a little bit kind of about my journey and my faith journey and stuff like that as well, okay? Started off, obviously, I told you I went to private Catholic high school and graduated, went to Hanover, which is not affiliated with a religion. And so one of the reasons I love coaching in college is when you guys go to college, you're going to be off on your own for the first time, right? So you're not going to have your parents that are going to drop you off here, right? You're not going to have your parents that take you to church all the time. It's really up to you to make those decisions, right? So it literally was on me to make a decision. Am I going to continue to follow Christ when I get to college? Or am I not going to continue in Christ when I got to college? And in my freshman year, sometime in my freshman year, I found a group called Christian Life down at Hanover College. And it was a group like this. A bunch of young people, we were all in college, we all got together. There was a talented dude that knew how to play guitar. We would worship. Somebody would come in and share a Bible verse and Bible story around it, and that became kind of my weekly fix, my weekly church fix. And so I thought that was a big key, and that's going to be a big key when you guys, whether you go to college or not, you go off on your own, right? Or you continue to take your family to church, you continue to take yourself to church, to stay in the Word and things like that. So that kind of continued as I got to Finland and I started playing arena football. I went back to Cincinnati, which is where I'm from, in 2005. I played my first arena football season. At the end of that season, one of the scouts from the top league happened to see me play and they wanted to sign me to the next league. And so I got signed in Tampa Bay. Anybody else want to live in Florida? Tampa? It's pretty nice. This time of year it's probably 65, 70 degrees right now. Okay, it was where I always wanted to play. I vacationed about an hour from there. And so I finally made it in The quarterback there at the time was a veteran that had played a lot of football. And I didn't have a lot of opportunity. The backup was a really old veteran. He was about 37, 38 years old. He had already won a Arena Bowl championship. So I came in on practice squad as a third quarterback. It was pretty clear to me that I really wasn't going many places. You want to know how else it was clear? The head coach didn't know my name. He called me quarterback. Hey, quarterback, come over here. Right? Anybody play football here? Does anybody know what scout team is? Okay, you guys know what scout team? So basically, I would go play scout team quarterback, and if I put a touchdown, I got done. My job was to throw interceptions so the defense felt good. Right? I wasn't getting any better. They weren't getting any better. I was not very happy. And so a coach that I had in college actually stepped down a league and went to Louisville, Kentucky to play. So I left in the middle of that season because I signed in the minor league of that team. And I took a chance. I was in the top league, which is where I always wanted to be, but I went to the minor league. It'd be like leaving the Reds, going to the Louisville Bats in AAA. Like, hey, you're already in the majors, why would you leave? But I didn't feel like I was getting any better. I felt like something was calling me down to Louisville. So I went to Louisville. You guys what? I became the starter down there. And I won Rookie of the Year in 2006 in that league. Okay, so I bet on myself, took a chance, was fortunate enough to play on my Rookie of the Year. Well, guess what? Now I'm on top of the world. Now I'm the top rookie in this Arena Football 2 League. And at that time in my head, I didn't think I needed God that much, right? Why? Because I was on top of the world, right? I already won this accolade. I had teams calling me left and right? I didn't use God much in that process, right? I used logic, I used my brain. I found the team that won the championship, which was in Chicago, which is not too far from Cincinnati, right? So it was pretty close. They had won the championship the year before. They had their starting quarterback, but they didn't go back. So all logic told me to go to that team, right? They only had one quarterback, they needed two, they just won a championship. I like winning, anybody else like winning. Right? Everything told me to go to that. So guess what? I signed it. Okay, so I signed there, I was going out all winter, I was going to the workouts, I was getting to know the coach, I was getting to know the players on the team. And about 2 weeks before training camp, guess what happened? A dude that just got cut from the NFL that lived down the street from the complex showed up to work out with us. And I was like, listen, he's number one quarterback, not number two quarterback. Who are you? Right? Well, they signed that kid too. Even though they told me, they promised me, we were only going to do two quarterbacks, right? And so, he had come and he started in, and we went to training camp a few weeks later. It was pretty clear they were the local kid from Chicago, and they really didn't want me in that position. Has anybody ever been cut from a team? Anybody never been cut from a team? That was me. Never been cut from a team my entire life. Okay? And so, probably 23, 24 years old, they called me into the office. They said, Brett, you're not good enough. We're going to have to let you go. Okay? That was devastating to me because I had to take a big ego shot. Here I am, the rookie of the year in the Arena from the minor league, and I make it up to the top league, and the top player in the other league gets cut from the team. Not only did I feel like a failure myself, but I felt like I had left the whole league there, because you're the top rookie in the whole league from the year before gets cut from that team. So guess what? At that point, I needed God's help now, right? So now I started praying desperately, right? Even as an adult, I'm crying. I'm driving home from Chicago back to Indianapolis and Cincinnati, and I'm crying. I'm praying, and I thought I had my life figured out. I thought I was going to get back to the league I was trying to get to. And somebody, for the first time in my life, athletically told me I wasn't good enough. And that was a big hit. And so I was praying a lot about what I should do next. At that time, I was engaged. I was engaged to be married, and we had a wedding date set. Okay? The wedding date was on August 4th. Okay? The reason we set the date on August 4th, because the week before was the championship game of the Arena Football League. Does that make sense? So if we made it all the way to the championship, it wasn't going to affect my wedding, because I was going to marry next week. Okay? And so I started praying. I was praying a lot about what I should do. I was kind of hitting a little bit of a rock bottom for me. And I got a call from one of my former coaches who was a team all the way out in Spokane, Washington. Has anybody ever heard of Spokane, Washington? It is out there. I'm telling you. It's a multiple hour drive all the way out in the state of Washington. That's just far in general. said go to Spokane, Washington. None. Everything was saying go back to your usual, go back to Louisville. That is where you should be. But as I was praying a lot, something was telling me, and I think that was God inside telling me to go to Spokane. My wife's crying every day. My fiance at the time, she's crying every day. You can't leave, because guess what? Back in the minor league, my wedding day is now the first round of the playoffs. So I'm literally calling this team and I'm saying, hey man, I may sign with you, but I got to miss the first round of the playoffs because I'm getting married. Right? Coach is like, don't matter, we're going to get a buy anyway with you. Who cares? Right? But again, now we can't go on a honeymoon because I'm going to get married, but then I got to go back to Spokane to finish football. So I had signed in Spokane at the time. This was 1,000 years ago before Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. We just had websites. And so the Arena Football had a website, and I signed on the dotted line. I was supposed to fly out 2 days later to Spokane, Washington. And when my signing hit the website, it was on the front page because I had just worked the year before. So I'm re-signing in the league, so they posted, right? Remember, nothing was telling me to go to Spokane other than some voice inside of me. And so what happened over the next 2 days was pretty remarkable. I got a call from a team in Kansas City. I had never talked to Kansas City my entire life before. The Kansas City team, which was in the top league, called me. They said, hey, we saw you just sign in Spokane. You know if you go to Spokane, you can't play in Arena 1 anymore. We're very interested in signing you, but I don't have an open spot for you. Right? So a little door was open. Right? So 24 hours later, I'm literally getting ready to drive to the airport to fly to Spokane, Washington with all my bags packed. And Kansas City calls me and they say, hey, we got a spot for you, we're going to sign you. Right? Hallelujah, right? Guess what? My wedding's back on. The honeymoon's back on. Praise God. Well, why is Kansas City? I don't know anybody in Kansas City. Right? So anyway, I go out to Kansas City. Right? In fact, let me tell you a reminder. My wife was teaching class in Avon, Indiana. And I show up to the school. I said, can I see my wife? I don't know why they let me in. They did. I went to her classroom. She thought I was just telling her bye. And I was like, hey, I'm not going to Spokane anymore. I'm going to Kansas City. And her face was like, what? Like, she thought I was just getting ready to go to Spokane. Now I'm going to Kansas City. So instead of getting on that, the next day I fly out and I go to Kansas City. And again, I'm back on practice squad, which is where I was the year before. Right? There's a starter, there's a backup, and a me. And I'm there for about 4 weeks. And like, I'm getting better, I'm trying, I'm talking to the coaches, I'm staying active, I'm watching film. I'm doing all the things that every coach has told me on how to become better and better, and how to move up in the thing, right? So I meet with the coach, and the coach said, hey, you're doing a great job. I need to see these 3 things from you. And, so I'm working on those things, right? But when you play in these arena football leagues, much like minor league, they just throw you in with some kind of random roommate, right? And my roommate was not from this country. He was from some country in Africa, and his name was Anwar. Okay, he had played football at a D2 school in Missouri, and for the first 4 weeks, me and Anwar, we did not talk. Right? We saw each other, we gave each other grunts and head nods. I went to my room, he went to his room. Right? And before we went to practice every day, Anwar would disappear. I'd see him get up, he'd go into his room, all the lights would be off, and he wouldn't do anything for an hour until it was time to leave for practice, and then we got out and we left. Right? I watched that for 4 straight weeks. After that 4th week, we're sitting on the couch together, and I said, hey man. So I started to get to know him a little bit. I'm like, what do you do in the mornings when you eat breakfast and then you go in there and you just don't make any noise, and I'll see you for an hour before we leave for practice? He says, oh, I'm praying. I said, oh, praying. He goes, yeah, I go in my closet, I turn on the lights off, and I pray and meditate, and I get right with God. And so I start asking him about that, right? We have this whole conversation about praying and relationship with God and this, that, and the other. And I had a relationship with God too, but mine was different. I didn't talk to God that much in the morning. Right? I had short little prayers throughout the day, things like that. Right? Before meals, you say a prayer. Before you go to bed, you say a prayer. Those kind of things, right? That's what I was taught, so that's what I did. And so I started asking more of these questions, and to find out the reason he does that is he says, if I can't get my mind right with the Lord, how am I going to begin the rest of my day? And it was like light bulb went off. I was like, that's what I'm missing. Right? That is what I'm missing from this believe God does a lot of things for a reason. I'm not kidding you. 2 days later, after that conversation, the head coach calls me back to the office, right? Which means two things. I'm either getting activated to the active roster or I'm getting cut and I'm leaving. Right? And so I come and I sit in my office, my heart's beating fast because I don't know what he's about to say. Because remember, I'm on practice squad. And I just had a great day of practice, so I don't know what he wants to talk to me about. He said, hey, I just want to let you know that Tampa called. Okay? Remember, Tampa was my old team, right? When I was throwing interceptions every day. So Tampa called. Well, that was celebratory for me because that means Kansas City, to block me to go into Tampa, they're going to sign me to the active roster, right? So guess what? Not only is my wedding back on, I get a real game check. I don't make practice squad money, I'm making actual money. A whopping $32,000 a year. That's massive, right? So I know I'm getting a game check, and so I expect the next words out of his mouth is to say, hey, Tampa called, they want to sign you, we don't want you to go to Tampa, so we're going to sign you and activate you to the active roster. Guess what? That is not what that coach said. That coach said, Tampa called. So I guess you're going to Tampa. I was like, what? So at this point, I signed in Chicago, cut, signed in Spokane, didn't go to Spokane, went to Kansas City. This is all in like 8-9 weeks time.
Oh my.
Right? And so now I'm going to Tampa. So I called my wife and I'm like, hey, guess what? Going to Tampa. Remember, I didn't like the coach, they didn't like me, he didn't even know what my name was, but now he wants to re-sign me. So guess what? Tampa was awful that year. They were 1-6 heading into that game. They had just started the bye week. They had a starter, they played for 5 games, they benched him. They brought the backup in, they won the first game of that, they thought they found their starter. And then a dude that later played in the NFL the very next game ripped his arm literally out of socket when he sacked him. He went to throw a pass and their arms got tangled. He tried to pull him down and it tore his arm out of socket, which means he was done for the year. Okay, so they remember me from the year before. The coach that was the backup, I said, the really old guy that had won a championship before, he was now on the coaching staff. And he remembered me from the year before. He said, hey, that kid was really good. We need to sign him back. They said, where the heck is he? They said, he's in Kansas City. And so my testimony is I don't believe that would happen. I believed I was in Kansas City for a reason. I would believe I was in Kansas City to learn a lesson. I believe God took me to Kansas City so I would eventually have a conversation with Anwar, eventually have a spiritual conversation with him because that's what I needed at that time. And I was there for about 6 weeks. Who knows if I reach out to Anwar in week 1, week 2, maybe stuff happens a little bit differently. But everything happens for a reason. Okay? So guess what? Tampa stinks. They're 1-5. They're on a bye week, so I go down to Tampa. They said, hey, you got a couple days, you can go to Indy, and we're giving our team off. We need to reset, we're 1-6. And so they brought me down to Tampa that next week. And so the starter they originally benched, they said, hey, he's going to be the starter again. He was a legend in the Arena Football League. He's going to be the starter. And so one of you two knuckleheads figures it out. And I was one of the knuckleheads, and then another guy that they had on practice squad was another knucklehead. And guess what? I had the best week of practice I've ever had in my entire life. Anybody have those weeks of practice where you can't miss a shot? Well, I was a quarterback, and I didn't know these guys, but I was dropping dimes left and right. I had the best week of practice my entire life. I wasn't throwing interceptions anymore. I was throwing touchdowns. And things just happened like that. I had a great week of practice. And remember, I'm just excited. I'm the backup. I get a game check, right? I get to dress and put on an actual uniform on game day. And so I get a call the night before the game from one of my buddies that I played college ball with. I hadn't talked to him in a couple years. He called me the day before the game, and I said, hey, what's going on? He was studying sports psychology at Ivy Tech. He was getting ready to teach classes. He just graduated with a sports psychology degree. And I said, hey, this is where I'm at. I get to dress my first game. Tomorrow, do you have any advice for me? He said, yeah. He said, prepare like you're the starter. Remember, I'm happy just to get a game check. That's all I'm happy for. Right? Prepare like you're the starter. Because if you're ready, and you get called into action, you're going to be ready. But if you're not ready, and you're just happy to be there, and your name gets called upon, and you're not ready for that opportunity, that may be the last opportunity you ever get. Because you've already been cut once this year, you get another opportunity, you fail, going to bench you and play the other team. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's 100% correct. Other than practice squad, I had been a starter on every team that I've been on. Cincinnati, Louisville, right? The other games I've just been on practice squad. I hadn't been dressing for the game. So I'm like, it's been a long time since I've been for backup. That's an awesome advice. And so that next day, I went out and I did all my routine just like I was playing. I was playing at Hanover, I was playing at Louisville. I did my full game routine. And I said, I'll probably not play, but I better do this anyway because Jeff just told me that. And so I practice, I warm up, I act like I'm a starter, right? I'm ready to go. And we get ready, I take my helmet off, and I'm watching the game. I got front row seat to arena football. This is awesome. So we scored a touchdown, they scored a touchdown. We're driving, this is the end of the first quarter. The quarterback kind of gets sacked kind of on our sideline. And he comes up, hold that for a second. He comes up, he got tackled, he run out, he popped up, and all of a sudden he goes, ah! He had dislocated his wrist. Which guess what? That means I'm in the game now. Remember, I was only supposed to be a backup. I was only supposed to be getting a game check. And I was like, oh my. Like I got a little dizzy. Because now all of a sudden I've waited for this opportunity forever. God has taken me all over the country, and now I'm in the game. And I just sat there and I prayed for a second. And so I got the game, and we won the game. So now we're 2-6. After that, we went 7-1 the rest of the regular season. Okay, so we really turned it around. We had a great team. They just weren't getting a lot of the quarterback. I wasn't fantastic, but I wasn't losing games. We ended up going 7-1. So we made the playoffs. We went to the playoffs. Does anybody know the Chicago Bears fan here? No Chicago. Okay. Their head coach a couple years ago was Matt Nagy. Okay, does anybody remember Matt Nagy as the head coach? How you guys will know, he's Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coach. Okay, he's the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs now. He was the quarterback of the other team in the first game that I ever played in arena football. He was the quarterback for the Columbus Destroyers. And so in the playoff game, we had to reface Columbus, who was the first team that I did. And in arena football, it's all about getting stops. They scored a touchdown in every single possession that they had. Okay? And we got stopped on only one possession. We scored a touchdown every drive. 11 of our 12 drive, we scored a touchdown on, but the one we didn't score a touchdown on was the difference in the game. So we lost 56-55. Our kicker missed an extra point at the end. And so we had a great year. And because of that, I was named Rookie of the Year in that year. So I'm the only player in arena football history to win back-to-back Rookies of the Year in both of their leagues. And so from then on, I was like, I'm going to have, like, through the ups and downs, whatever goes on, you know, I've had a tumultuous relationship with football. I get very nervous before games, especially in arena football, because so much is on the quarterback, right? I just told you there was 12 drives. One team scored 12 touchdowns out of 12 drives. We scored 11. If I have a bad game and I throw 2 picks, right, we're probably not going to win the game, right? So I felt like a lot of pressure. I was puking before games. Right? I would literally, they'd be kicking the game off, and we're getting ready to receive, and that ball's hitting that net, and I'm over in the trash can. I'm puking in the trash can. Okay? There you go. Okay? I'm puking in the trash can, so I'm so nervous. I'm at the urinal before the game, and I'm literally sitting there like, why the heck am I doing this? If I get so worked up and so nervous before every game, why the heck am I doing this? But something kind of came over me. I heard this along the way. It's something that I really believe in, and I try to live by to this day. And somebody has it back on the back of their phone case. Who has faith over fear on the back of their phone case? Is that you? Maybe you don't even know. You got it? So you want to try it today? Okay. You have it. You don't have it. Okay. You win the free